Well, it's a magic time, and I always think it's a good time to do it. While you're waiting for paint to dry, next step on this is we've got to dump the oil and get a new filter on our Kawasaki. Amazing how fast the miles go. We've really gotten a lot of enjoyment, a lot of riding out of this bike, but it is time for maintenance. Now hopefully we'll be able to beat the weather that's rolling in here. We've got supposedly 2 or 3 days of rain. It'll be a lot easier if I can get the oil dumped on this today. Oh, it's truly a beautiful sight watching the old oil come out, knowing we've had a lot of fun in the miles that we've got on that oil. And we're putting in genuine Kawasaki oil for the first time. And I've always used Yamalube because basically I was buying it in quantity and I got a good discount on it, but I got talked into putting real Kawasaki oil in a Kawasaki. I don't know what came over me. This will be a good test if we get to ride in the next week. It's supposed to be 3 days of rain. That's why I'm trying to get some of this maintenance done. It's going to be a little awkward trying to paint during this bad weather. Now I'm pretty old school about this. I always try to, it's not a sunny day so I can't really do it outside. Always try to look in the oil pan, and if I see little metal flake chips in there, or the scarf, they call it scarf anyway. That oil looks pretty good. It looks like I'm just laughing about this Kawasaki oil. I can hear the bike talking now. Oh, she's always giving me Kawasaki oil. Always feels good to see that window fill up with nice, clean Kawasaki oil. Here we're going to log everything into our logbook. Oh boy, does this feel good to get this done. That means for the rest of the winter and maybe part of the summer, hey, the only thing left to do on this is the tire. The tire is down to the bars. Shame on me, I've done it again. We have a tire. That's going to be our next project for while we're waiting for paint to dry. So after any maintenance, I always want to make sure nothing's dripping or drooling or leaking or whatever. So that's a nice little thing to get out of the way, and as the really cold winter approaches, this is one of the bikes we try to ride all through the winter. But you never know. They're predicting so much bad weather in the next 3 days. I don't know if Steve is even going to be able to get over here and do his part on getting that back masking done. He's got to pick his paint job. And we still have work to do on the FZR. Now yesterday I was glad to get some of the maintenance done on the bike. I also reorganized my tables because I always want to have some parts, as you can see here, and this is a good tip if you have air heat in your house in the winter. I want that hanging up under the heating vent. I also want some of the parts, and this is the warmest area of a cold cellar right here, and I want these to be drying up as much as possible. Where if I really want some of these, like when I'm working on a tank or working on this part, I'll move them over so that they're basically under the heating vent. Doesn't sound like a big thing, but remember what we do here, and a lot of people are stuck doing this, is you have to work in a cold garage. I have to let the paint dry, and then usually I don't bring it in till the next day or in the morning, and I don't bring it in at all if our grandson's going to be here for that point in time. So moving the parts around to get the best dry time on this. Now, of course, if you had the luxury of a body shop and forced heat, and well, yes, that would be very nice. But I guess the bottom line is you don't really need it to do this quality of work. You just need the time and the energy and the inspiration. And what I do a lot of times, now today, I want to look at each one of these parts individually. And because it's not raining, it's actually not raining out there, the wind is just blowing, I want to look at every part and see if I got to do it on an individual basis and see, is there anything on here that I want to fix, because the next step on this project is going to be to have Steve come over, spend the better part of a day, lay out the tape stripes to his liking. And I certainly don't want to do that without him unless he wants it that way. But so planning out this day, I do have some time. And I thought the last thing that I really want to do. This part here, I want to check it over with a microscopic comb, because I still can do any little spot on there that I'm not happy with. And if the fussier you are, the better. Now, taking a part down off the heating vent, of course, a lot of people, and I would never, say who's right and who's wrong, a lot of people would be very happy with this. I've wet sanded it out, I think 3 times, put more paint on it, but there's still little stuff on here that I don't like. There's very tiny little glitches, and I see one right here. There's a little glitch down here. And this is the nice part about doing stuff in the middle of the winter when you don't have to have it done the next day. Now, I'm really happy to wait. This I want to work on a little bit. That looks like it could be a little nicer. So what I'm going to do to start the day off here, because I will be able to paint today, assuming it doesn't rain in the next 2 hours. This will be about an hour and a half job. I want to get this just like I did yesterday. Detail, sand it out, and make any little corrections. And what happens with this, the bad spots, every time you re-sand something, the high spots come through. Well, the next time that high spot is buried further down. And at some point in time when you block sand out the whole part, what happens, as soon as you see the high spot come up, you're done. So that's our goal for, for the beginning of the day. And the coffee's brewing. Karen's ready to have our morning coffee, and then I'm ready to get to work. I love the way these parts are coming out. It's been a labor of love. And when I get that one to look like this one, I'll be very, very happy. And then we'll be ready to pull the tank. Working in my shop in the winter, this is one of the joys of my life. I do enjoy the time I spend down here, and I try to make it as productive as possible, as efficient as possible. And at the end, come springtime, I like to have a bike that's as good as I can make it. Well, just as I did yesterday in DASA 600, and there are a lot of little spots. Now, there's no major stuff. But every time you do this, it just gets a little nicer. And what happens, what I found happened many times, is I see a little spot and I think, oh geez, now I'm under fluorescent lights, which make it even worse. You see every spot that you'd never see in the sunshine. So when something looks good under fluorescent lights and you take it in the sunshine, it looks 10 times better. But I want it to look good under fluorescent lights. This is what helps me get every little flaw out of this that I can. And what almost always happens is in the middle of the winter, there's a day like today, and you spend the time detailing this out, and you say, oh man, nobody's going to notice that. Nobody's even going to see it. You spend that extra hour here, an hour there. Nobody's going to see that either. And what happens? The first time you take it and it's out in the bright sun, it's a bright sunny day, unlike today, of course. And you look at it, you stand back and look at it, and you say, wow, am I glad I put all that extra time in? Am I glad I didn't shortchange that? And in my case, many times I've been frustrated at the end of a job. I say, gee, I just want to get it done. I just want to get it done. Spring is coming. Spring is coming. Well, that doesn't happen when you work in the middle of the, believe me, today, no chance of going for a ride. Just brutally cold, wind howling. Not conducive to wanting to go for a ride. You can see it on the macro lens, but there's a little spot there where you got to remember, these are rough service life parts, a lot of repairs. Some of the repairs I did, some of the repairs whoever had this bike before did. And we're trying to make it not like a new part, better than a new part. That's the goal. So I did spend quite a bit of time detailing this out, and I'm tack rigging it down now. I'm going to try to wait a little while. It is really windy out there and howling. I've always been able to deal with it, but it's not fun. I just wish we would get that the cold doesn't really matter. But anyway, anytime I tack rag this down, of course, gets it prepped, hopefully gets any little dust spots off. It's supposed to get rid of the static so it doesn't attract dust. But common ordinary tack rag you can buy any place, even at Lowe's. And we managed to get it painted despite some unbelievable winds. This is really pushing it, getting the wind this much. I've tried to box myself into the corner of the house here, but even that wind is blowing. Now I sanded this part down the other day, and what I want to do is with some prep wool. What I'm concerned with, I was just going to put some clear on this, but there are a couple of sanding spots where we went through in the back. And then I thought, well, there's another problem with this. If the black is not going to be believe it or not, there are all different kinds of blacks. And if you really want to have the blackest black, pay the extra couple of dollars and get Bentley black or whatever it is. There's some black that's really nice. That's blacker than all the rest. This is not it, by the way. Steve bought the cheap black. I don't know if there is such a thing as the cheap black. Anyway, but there is a black you can buy that's a few dollars extra. It's supposedly got a, I've actually seen it on some other websites too. But you can see, even just with the prep wool, there is always some residue. Now I'm afraid of the fisheyes because every part of this bike that we worked on had a fisheye issue. A serious fisheye issue. So now the thing is, and this is going to be a good trick I can share. I did this on the Honda that we painted the black gas tank and it worked fine. If you put paint on this and you see fisheyes coming out everywhere, I'll tack rag it too. You see fisheyes coming out, right away take a paper towel and wipe the paint off. Spray it again, wipe it off until there's no more fisheyes. Now it sounds like that wouldn't be a big deal, but it absolutely is a big deal. In fact, I see a spot right here that looks like, I don't know. All these parts are in rough shape, but anyway, that is a good trick. All right, it's all tack rag down, and the wind is probably up over 40 miles an hour again today. First part we've painted of Steve's Ninja today. This is the first part that doesn't have any fisheyes. So, must be our lucky day. So we arrive at another watershed in our project. It looks like our side fairing is about as good as we're going to get it. And I think the next time we get to do a work session, I want to clear the deck. There's a couple of things I have to do. Number one, I wanted to run the bike. This was my plan anyway, run the bike, make sure the float bowls are full. That'll be the last time the bike runs then in probably a month, maybe more of the time that we're doing the tank, I don't know. But I always, and again, I've said this again, I do about every 3 weeks say, when it's above 40 degrees, I let the bikes run 10 minutes each, fill up the float bowls. Seems to work for me. So anyway, the project's moving along. The next step is going to be the gas tank, I think. And the next step is to get Steve over here for a day. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And of course, thanks for watching. Now hopefully we'll be able to beat the weather that's rolling in here. We've got supposedly 2 or 3 days of rain. It'll be a lot easier if I can get the oil dumped on this today.